So this really worked well. Like I said last night, we found a sign that said Stan's Refuge. It does not seem to be marked no trespassing, and it is pretty much perfect, and there were all sorts of animals back here. We really lucked out finding this last night. We were looking at just setting up on the side of the road, just trying to get away from any of the gas vent access valves or the oil rigs, before we just happened to catch sight of trees off in the distance and decided to walk over and check this out. Really the only bad thing about this is it just reeks of natural gas or oil or something like that. Oh well. At least we don't have to worry about smelling ourselves, huh, Jen? So like I was saying, vehicle access on this road, they're usually really good about signing if they don't want you back here, so we figured we were good. And it is apparently Stan's Refuge. Granted, I have done some exploring at this old prison called Boron out in the desert, and the reason it doesn't have no trespassing signs is people kept stealing the no trespassing signs. So obviously we are seeing oil pumps, oil containers around. We're also getting whiffs of sulfur, which I'm guessing are from that pipeline. Back a ways, they had all these signs about how dangerous it was, so hopefully it's dispersed enough. We have about 4 more miles into Ellenwood or so, enough where if we were in slightly better shape last night and we hadn't had to do the heat siesta, we could have pushed on and maybe gotten a room, but it's what it is. This worked out. Today, we are actually going to book it through Ellenwood. We are counting on Great Bend for our next resupply. The reason why we're going to push through town quick is we are kind of figuring after yesterday, trying to push through the heat isn't going to work. We're going to have to siesta. So there is a visitor's center at Cheyenne Bottoms, which is that big marsh that we're really looking forward to going through today. And we're going to try and make it there, see if we can wait out the heat of the day where we have access to water and hopefully some shade, and then push on into the evening. Part of why I was saying my feet were beat up yesterday is my shoes are pretty much done. We only have another 2 days or so until the next pair arrives at Kinsey, which seems a little bit crazy. It feels like we just replaced them, but that's the thing when we're doing 150, 170 miles a week. Shoes that are having to be replaced every 400 miles don't last all that long. Plus side, we have under 300 miles left of Kansas, so the next pair will be in Colorado. I can already picture the YouTube comments talking about how awful this looks. Why the heck are we doing this instead of, hiking XYZ pretty place? They would never do this, etc., etc. Thing is, I've hiked a lot of places, even on the areas that people hold up as really pretty. People still grumble and complain about pretty much anything. Too many rocks, too steep, too flat, too wet, too dry. People quit the thru hikes in mass numbers in Virginia and Northern California because it is a longer stretch of just kind of keeping on. The way I view it is, yeah, there are rougher sections. Often it is not my favorite to go through them, but it's a period and things will change, and you never know when they're going to change. We could have another major monsoon come in, toss us back down into the 80s. We could also have record heat waves like Louisiana last year. You just never know, but I try not to let myself dwell too much on, oh, this is miserable and it's never going to end. That was a problem for me on the PCT because when it started to have heat waves down in the desert that were going to be like 104 for 3 or 4 days, it did feel like mentally just it was never going to end. Assuming we can keep our forward progress, we're under 2 weeks from finishing Kansas, which both seems like not that much time just looking at it on paper, and like a very long time when you're actually hiking, because every day seems like it lasts an eternity. The days are an eternity, the weeks slip on past. Similar to what Jen and I have talked about before, enjoying transitions and seeing the change. Crossing the Great Plains here is kind of the precursor to getting out to central western Colorado, where all of a sudden I'm in the mountains and things are going to be very different for the remainder of the hike. So you can survive anything for a while. As long as your willpower doesn't break. And I have the advantage of not having a home to go back to. Makes it easier to stick with the hike, you know? We were talking to Hot Rod and Peaches for a while yesterday when they came by and dropped off drinks. And they're farmers, and we were mentioning how a lot of the crops out here seemed like they were crisping up and turning brown, and wondering what was going on. And their guess is they plant the crops and it either makes it or it doesn't. They don't irrigate here, and they just count on getting enough rain for them to make it through. Otherwise, the crop's just a loss. One advantage of the roads like this, I can actually edit videos while I'm walking down the road. Can just be on autopilot. That guy was spraying the weeds. Stopped to check if we were okay, and couldn't believe we were crazy enough to be out here in Kansas this time of year, and talked with us for about half hour or so. Per him, we are going to have mosquitoes the size of birds in Cheyenne bottoms, and it is going to get dangerously hot next week, so woohoo! And yet another example of this was a horrible channel name. What was I thinking? My sense of humor sucks as far as marketability. He was asking if we had a webpage or anything, and we were trying to walk him through finding our site, and we had to explain masochist, spell masochist. Hey. I have fcotm.com as a URL shortener just so I could get to my site quick, and I've started putting that on things, but then you got to spell it and it's not really memorable. So yesterday while I was walking, I actually registered masochisthikes.com, which will just forward to the full First Church of the Masochist.com, but apparently it doesn't pop up in Yahoo search yet. In other news, Yahoo still has a search. I don't know what phone that guy was using that it was like defaulting to Yahoo. But we were also asking him about the dry crop situation, and he said, yeah, unless there is one of those pivot arms out there, it's dry crop. So you basically plant and you just hope for rain. And they have had a hell of a time for the last 3 years. He said they've had very little wheat harvest just because it's been so dry. All the rain they get comes down in a flood of like 13 inches at once, does a whole bunch of damage, and then when they need it, nothing. Everything in the city is off trail. We're not going to delay. It looks like it is a busier road that the route takes again, so we're going to turn on this a mile short, take it up, and then we'll pick up the road right as we enter Cheyenne Bottom. Ah, so they do water at least some of the crops.
Yesterday we saw the first field of this new crop, something different besides the corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay. It's actually kind of pretty from the top view. We did have to use the Apple photo ID to identify it, and it is sorghum.
This is going pretty good for us. It is getting warm, and we're just trying to make it to the visitor center to siesta until about 5 or 6. Unfortunately, we had so much fun talking to the guy in the tractor, we gave up a little of our time. Okay, that is probably the visitor center we were aiming for. For the moment we have a breeze, but it is going to be unworkably warm in another couple of hours, so hopefully they'll let us hang around until 5 or 6 tonight. Okay. Okay, well, this isn't the worst thing in the world. Jen just does love her some sandpipers.
Square miles of perpetual wetlands in America's heartland prairie.
were happy to let us hang out inside and even offered to let us use one of their classrooms. Taters wishes to nap, so we are out here where we think they have plugs, and we can kill a bit of time. It is now 6 o'clock. We are about to get going again. We've been hanging out in here. Once we arrived, they were happy to let us hang out inside, but Jen wanted to nap, so we came here. We used the plugs on the wall, and yeah, we've just been dozing, waiting for the temperature to go. The wind has picked up, so we think that the umbrellas may not be as effective for this next section, and we're going to be completely exposed. Jen has entered her crazy cat lady phase, apparently.
It's the wind.
Yes, blame the wind. The folks at this education center were really, really nice. We even watched a 15-minute movie that showed what this place looks like when it's not going through a horrific drought that has dried out all the water, and it's actually quite impressive most of the time, just not right now. And if you're thinking, wasn't Matt talking about record rainfall in Ohio? Yes, I have hiked from record rainfall to record drought now. Leap, Andy. Oh, you aren't in a leaping mood. Okay, apparently we were misinformed, and there is actually water here, just not a ton. Okay, this is actually damn impressive. I don't think we videoed it, but there was a poster in the visitor center that showed this having all been dried up back around 2012, which was the previous big drought. Yeah, they're too far out there. So per the things we were watching, it's only about 6 feet deep at its deepest, and for the most part it's actually fairly shallow. It's like being back in Florida, Jen. So 8:40, there is a campground up ahead that sane people would probably stay on, but Tater's up there is insisting that I make miles for the day, so we're apparently going to night hike into some den of villainy up ahead. So it'll be fine. Nobody's been mugged on the ADT for several months at least. Damn it, see, I was expecting this to be full since it's a Friday night next to a wilderness area, but I guess it's too warm for anybody to want to come out. I was picturing loud, busy. No way we'd want to stay there. We'd much rather keep hiking even though it's 9 o'clock. This just feels so foreign to my normal way of doing things. I think we're hallucinating, Jen. Maybe it's a little mower drone. That was weird to see from a distance. Just for the record, the one place open that we went by was axe throwing, and Jen wouldn't let me stop. She also denied my request to go clubbing at whatever the hottest club in Great Bend is. Brought my leather pants for nothing. Okay, well that wasn't my favorite, but supposedly this church has a hiker-biker campsite, which is why we came in for it. The options before and after this. or just not way too little or way too much. So okay, not the quietest, but this works. It's a nice enough little setup here, but we don't even think we're gonna set up the tent. We've only got like 5 hours until we need to get moving again. So on the plus side, there is a Starbucks nearby, so the plan is roll up, pack up, and go.
We are trying to get used to this really weird schedule. So it's midnight, we are sitting down to dinner and going to catch a couple hours of sleep before getting up at 4:30 or so tomorrow morning and try and hike some more before the hot part of the day kicks in. Looks like we're probably going to be trying to manage some kind of a similar schedule until we get far into Colorado and until I go back to school. So it's just a matter of fine-tuning to find out what works. At least we have a nice place to stay tonight in the town of Great Bend. The church makes this park area available. Home sweet home for the night.